Hello students. So today we are going to start your unit 3 that is your related to topic partial derivatives. Before this unit till now you have done your first two units. The first unit is of sequence series and second unit that was series expansion where you did your Taylor series, Maclaurin series. Now in this unit the main topics that we are going to do are limits and continuity of functions of several variables, limits and continuity of functions of several variables. So this is the topic that we are going to discuss in this unit. Second topic is your chain rule, while that we use for differentiating functions of more than one variable. Then third topic that we will be dealing will be directional derivatives. What are your directional derivatives and its properties? So this is the third topic that we will do in this unit. And again, last topic that we will be covering in this unit is maxima and minima of two variable functions. So these are the topics that we are going to cover in the unit 3 of partial derivatives, and no doubt there will be some smaller topics also in these topics that I have written here, but these are the main topics that we will be covering in this unit. So first of all, let us start with the concept of limits and continuity of functions, in higher dimension. Higher dimension means when you have a variable function has more than one variable. That we mean by higher dimension. So to start with, let us first define, because we have to define the limit of your function fx or fxy. So limit of your, let us define function fx, because this will help us to understand in better way the limit of a function in two variables. So just to start with, actually we have to do the limit of two variable function, but now let us start with an idea of limit of function in single variable. So it says let fx be defined on some open interval about point x naught, except possibly at x naught. Then we say that limit of fx is L at x naught if values of fx approaches L as x approaches x naught, and we write limit x tending to x naught fx is equals to L. So this is the basic definition, or let me write it here as a informal definition. It is informal definition of your limit of a single variable function. So this was a informal definition. We are not here discussing at the moment the formal definition. In formal definition we are discussing here. That simply says that the limit of function fx is L when the value of fx approaches L as x approaches x naught. So in that case, we write the limit of function fx x approaches to x naught equals to L in this way. Now I am writing here x tending to x naught fx equals to L, which means limit of function fx exists and this is equals to L. No doubt this L should be finite and unique. The value of L that comes out when you approach x naught, the value of fx that comes out to be L, it should be finite and unique. So for that, what does it mean? It means that if I am taking a limit, say this thing, a simple limit, it simply means the value 7, which is unique and finite. The limit should not be like this one, x tending to 0, 1 by x equals to infinity, not finite. Not finite. Limit does not exist. So limit should be finite. Limit should be finite. And it should not be finite as in this case. Other thing that we usually look in the informal definition, that your limit that comes out to be, it should be unique. That is limit say x tending to 0 or fx you have to find, and where fx is 0, x less than 0, 1, x greater than or equals to 0. So you have to find the limit of this function. Clearly you can see here, as you approach 0 from left hand side, the limit comes out to be 0, and as you approach from right hand side, from positive side, the value of limit comes out to be 1. That is not unique. Not unique. Although finite. Now in this case you can see limit when you are approaching from left is 0 and when you are approaching from right is 1, but it is not unique. In both the cases it is not unique when you are approaching the point 0 from left and right. So limit should be unique. From whatever left or right hand side you approach that particular point, limit should be unique. Now another thing for uniqueness, you can also take an example of this thing, limit x tending to 0 sine 1 by x. So in this case it fluctuates, the limit fluctuates between minus 1 and plus 1, minus 1 and plus 1. So it is again not unique. So limit does not exist. So we will be using all the same concept in the definition of limit for two variable function also. That limit, whatever it comes out to be, it should be finite and it should be unique. So with this, now I proceed to the limits for function of two variables. Limits in case of function of two variables, say fxy. So now I have to extend the definition that I defined now for single variable to function of two variables. For that, let me just discuss some of the points. In single variable, before discussing the definition of limit, in single variable we know what is closed interval, what is your open interval, you know all these, what is your interior point of interval and your end point of interval. So it was in the case when you have a variable in you have a single variable function fx. So now in your two variable case, we are extending these definitions. We are extending these definitions because these will be some notations, definition that will be used in the your definition of limit of two variable functions. So first is a point AB in a region R in the xy plane is an interior point of R if it is center of a disk of positive radius that lies entirely in R. Interior point, for an example, what it says that if you have a region R, say region R is somewhat like this one. Region R is basically a surface. It is a surface, and he says that if you have an region R, point AB, say here it is a point AB, it will be called an interior point of this region R, and we will call it as an interior point when if it is a center of disk of positive radius that lies entirely in R. That means if a point is an interior point of region R, I can always draw a disk. Here disk means circular surface. So I can always draw a circular disk about that point with some positive radius. So whenever a point is an interior point of some region R, I can always draw a circular disk of radius. Radius can be as small as possible, but I can always draw some disk around that point. Only in that case I will say that this point is an interior point. Now on the same base, what is the boundary point? Because these are the terms that we will be using in the definition of your limit of functions of two variables. So boundary point, it is a point x0 y0 is a boundary point of R if every disk centered at x0 y0 contains point that lies outside of R as well as points that lie in R. It means that whenever you are saying a given point is a boundary point, that means say here it is a point AB or say A1 B1, that is what I am going for. Here I have taken x0 y0, so let me take it as x0 y0. So he says that if x0 y0 is a boundary point of given region R, then whatever circular disk I construct around this point, it will always contain some points that lies in the region and also contain the points that lies outside that region. So if that point has such characteristics, I will say that point is a boundary point. So boundary point is a point for which whenever you generate a circular disk around it, so this circular disk basically about that point on that surface, then that disk will contain some points outside of that region and inside of that region simultaneously. So I will say that point is a boundary point. Now on the basis of this, he says that the interior points of a region as a set make up the interior of region. That is, if I constitute all the interior points of the region as a set, or simply all the interior points of that region will constitute the interior of that particular region R. Similarly, he says, whereas all the boundary points make up or constitute its boundary of what? A region, whatever a region R we are considering. So these are what your interior of a region that constitute all the interior points, and what are interior points that we have discussed earlier, and then boundary points of boundary region that constitute the boundary of a region R. Now you have open region. What is open region? Now see, these two definition interior points we have done also in the case of single variable. What are interior points? In the case of single variable you have endpoints. Now in the case of two variable we have boundary points. Here now open region. In case of single variable we were considering the open region AB. Okay, and now in two variables it is your open region. So he says a region in a plane is said to be open if it consists entirely of its interior points. So in case your region, whatever you are considering, it consists entirely of its interior points, we say that this region is your open region. For example, consider this surface. If I put this inequality that is less than 1, so this will basically contains all those region of this surface x square plus y square excluding the boundary. So basically this will give me open region. It is basically a surface, but surface that excludes the boundary and includes all the interior points. Similarly, closed region. In closed region you have also the boundary points. So here we say a region in a plane is said to be closed if it also contains its boundary point. If it also contains this boundary point, means it is containing interior points as usual, that were also in open region, but only difference here is that in closed region you will also have boundary points. So when you have boundary points, for an example, you can write here x square plus y square is less than equals to 1. X square plus y square is less than equals to 1. So closed region, in here you can see here in equality you have also the equality sign. That means it is including the boundary points also. So in that case we say region is your closed region. So now whatever the surface here we have plotted, this surface will also include the boundary points or boundary. So basically these are the some of the terms that we will be going to use in the definition of limit of two variable function. So let me now write the limit of two variable function, and these definitions will also be used in another topics also. So I have just cleared these definitions. What are interior points of a region, boundary points, what is interior of region, boundary of region, open region and closed region. Okay, so now let us come back to our topic that we were doing, limit of two variable function. Before this we have done limit of single variable function. So let me write it here as informal definition. So this is not the formal definition, this is informal definition of your limit of two variable function. So what is definition? Again, let fxy be a function of two variables defined on some open region. This open region you can assume it to be in xy plane. Okay, so xy be a function defined on some open region. This open region is basically in some xy plane. Open region R about point x0 y0 except possibly at x0 y0. So you can see that in the previous definition also we were writing that the except possibly at x0 in the previous definition for single variable function. Now the thing is that why he is writing this one, because the actual use of limit is in those points or at those points where we are not able to find the limit. For an example, you can see, you remember this thing. If you have a limit like this, you have to find there is no use of using this type of value for the limit, because you already know that for x square as x equals to 2, you have the value 4. So there is no use of limit in this case. But the limit, the use of limit actually comes in these type of functions, sin x upon x. You know this thing, that sin x upon x at x tending to 0, it is of the form 0 by 0. So if I substitute the value here directly, I will get 0 by 0. And that is not going to give me any value. And in the graph also, you know very well that here you have a graph something like, you have a hole here and goes like this one. So this hole simply means that x equals to 0, this function is not defined. You can't find the value at x equals to 0. So using the concept of limit, however, you write that sin x upon x is equals to 1. Using the concept of your limits, you write that sin x upon x equals to 1. So that is the beauty of your taking the limits here, and from where points it comes for the points where the function was not defined. So that is what we are writing here, except possibly, because actually these are the points for where we need the value of function using the concept of limits. Otherwise, for these type of functions, why we need limits? We can find out the value of x square at x equals to easily without putting the limit. Okay, so limit actually is used in such type of function where function is undefined. Okay. Okay, so except possibly at x0 y0, then we say that limit of fxy is L at x0 y0 if the value of fxy, approaches L as xy approaches x0 y0, and we write limit xy tending to x0 y0 fxy is equal to L. And no doubt this L should be finite as usual, we did earlier, and it should be unique. So this is the definition of limit of a function of two variable function, limit of a function with two variable, and the definition is same as we have defined for single variable. Just here now we have two variables. Each and everything will be same, finite and then unique. It should be whatever the value we get here, it should be finite and unique. Now let us do some of the questions on the basis of this definition of informal definition of limit of two variable functions. So here, first example, find limit xy tending to 0, 0, ey sin x upon x. So clearly you can see, you can always write it as limit xy tending to 0, 0. You can write it as ey dot sin x upon x. So this is ey tending to 0, limit x tending to 0, sin x upon x. Because here the values our functions have only x variables, so you can write sin x upon x. So this is e0 1, and limit sin x upon x, x tending to 0 is 1. So you get this limit. So this is how we usually find the value of limit. And this is finite and unique. So the limit exists. So the limit exists. Similarly, we can try this one. Xy tending to 1, 1, where x is not equal to 1. Xy minus y minus 2x plus 2, x minus 1. So clearly in such limits, what you can see, if I substitute 1, 1 directly here, I substitute 1, 1 directly here, I will be getting 0 by 0 form. So if I substitute here 1, 1, I will be getting 0 by 0 form. So that will not serve any purpose for me in this question. So now, taking the concept of limit, how to find the limit in this case, what I can do, I can here rearrange the terms. It is something like your, let me just rearrange the term first. Xy minus 2x minus y plus 2, and then x minus 1. I rearrange the term, so what happens then? You can see I have common factors. Here it is x, y minus 2, minus y minus 2, x minus 1. So this gives me x minus 1, y minus 2 upon x minus 1. So I can see here this gives me limit xy tending to 1, 1. This goes with this, and I get y minus 2. So this comes out to be 1 minus 2 is equal to minus 1. So limit is minus 1. So how you do? You just cancel out the common term. So in such type of question also, when by directly putting the values, if you are getting some form that can't be used, or from that you can't find the value, say here you have 0 by 0 form, then look for some of the factors if that can be cancelled out. So here you got the term x minus 1 cancelled out. It is not going to be each and every question, but you can look for these type of common factors, and then you get the value minus 1. So these are some of the examples for two variable functions. Next is your, after this one, I'm now coming to your continuity. I'm coming to the concept of continuity. So here we have just done limits of two variable functions. Now I proceed to discuss the continuity of fxy, two variable functions. So not time being, we will also be again discussing the limits in more general sense in coming topic. But before that, let me just discuss the continuity of fxy. So he says a function fxy is said to be continuous at point x0, y0 if, so this definition is same, or it correlates with the definition that you have done for single variable function, and that definition says f is, first of all, it should be defined at the given point. So here point is x0, y0, two variable function, so point is x0, y0. So function is defined at your x0, y0. Secondly, the limit x0, y0 fxy should exist. First, function should be defined. Secondly, limit at that point of function should exist. And thirdly, the limit, if it exists and if whatever value we got, it should be equal to the value of function at that particular point. So these are the 3 points we use to check whether given function is continuous at a given point or not. In general, we say function fxy is said to be continuous. CTS is continuous in domain D if it is continuous at every point of domain. So we say a function is continuous in domain D if it is continuous at every point of domain. So this is about your continuity of function fxy. Okay, so after continuity, now we come to the another very important topic of two-part test. Test for non-existence of a limit of fxy. So two-part test for that if we have to check the non-existence of the limit of function fxy, then we have a test for that, two-part test to check non-existence of a limit of two-variable function. So before going to that, but two-part test says, we must be able to understand what the theory behind two-part test is. So for that, I'm coming again back to the definition of limit in two-variable function and single-variable function. We are looking at it from geometrical point of view. So from geometrical point of view, let us say you have here x-axis, your y-axis. This is curve y is equal to fx. Here it is your x0. Here it is value L. This is from there. Now, in single variable, when we are saying that x approaches to x0, we mean we are approaching x from right hand side. We are taking the limit approaching x0 from right hand side, and also we are approaching from left hand side. Okay, so I should not write here equal. So when we are saying a limit of fx0 is equal to L, it means we can approach it either from right hand side or from left hand side, because x0 is on x-axis. So when it is on line, we can approach either it from right or left. And as you approach x0, y0, the value of fx will approach to value L. So that is what we do in single variable. Okay? So we usually take limit from left and right. However, when you have function in two variables, and you write that limit is equal to L. Now what is happening? Here? You have x, you have y. Okay, and say this z-axis, this is coming out of the plane. Okay, it is coming out of the plane. This is say x0, this is say y0, and this point is your x0, y0. Okay, because now the point is not on the axis, it is on the plane. So when the point is on plane, we can approach that point, that is xy tending to x0, y0. In single variable, we can approach either it from right or from left, because it was on axis, line. But now the point is on the plane, in an open plane, or simply where you can approach it from any of the direction, any of the line, any of the curve that crosses this point x naught, y naught. So when you have point x naught, y naught, the thing is, you can approach that point not from only the left and right, but from all of the direction around it, using any of the path or curve or line. So this is the definition, basic difference in single variable and two variable. In single variable, we approach the point from only left and right. But in two variable, the point x naught, y naught is to be reached by all the directions, and the value should come out to be same. The value of fx, when you approach x naught, y naught from any of the direction, from any of the way, any of the line, any of the curve, it should come out to be same. So this means, let me write it here, in limit this one, the value of limit should always L, unique and finite, when we approach x naught, y naught lying in plane from any direction. That whatever direction you choose, direction means any of the curve, any of the line that I have drawn here. So these are one of the few curved lines that passes through that point. So whatever direction, from whatever line, curve we approach that point, the value should always be L, unique and finite, whatever path we use to approach that point x naught, y naught. So this is the basic thing now you should keep in your mind to use two-part test, because whenever the limit will exist, it will be same. It will be same whatever path we use to approach point x naught, y naught. But now in two-part test, he is using the same thing to show the known existence. How? Two-part test for known existence of limits. So what he is saying, he says, if fxy has different limits along two different paths as xy approaches to x naught, y naught, means the path that you are using to approach x naught, y naught. Okay, then limit xy tending to x naught, y naught, fxy does not exist. So this he says, what you do, if you get different limits, from two different paths as xy approach to x naught, y naught, that you choose two different paths for reaching x naught, y naught, and you get two different limits, then definitely that limit is not going to exist. That limit will not exist. Why? Now, geometrically we see that whenever limit of two variable function will exist, it will always remain same whatever path we follow to reach that point x naught, y naught. So if using any of the two paths, if the limit is coming out to be different, limit should not exist. Why? Because it should be unique. So for that, how to use this two-part test? Let us consider an example. Show that fxy is equal to minus x under root x square plus y square has no limit as xy tends to 0, 0. So you have to show that this function has no limit. This function has no limit as xy tends to 0, 0. So no doubt we have two-part test to check the non-existence of the limit. Remember this thing in your mind, students, that the two-part test is used only for non-existence of limit, showing non-existence of the limit. We can't use this method for showing the existence of limit, only just for non-existence. So the main thing here is to choose path. How to choose path? That's because we were always saying that from every path limit should be same. So how to choose path so that we can approach point 0, 0. We can approach point 0, 0. So first condition for choosing the point is the path that can be curve, line or anything, okay, should pass through given point. The point whatever you have been given for about which you have to check the limit, the path should cross through that point. It shouldn't be like that you choose a path and it does not crosses or passes through that given point. The first condition, that path, the curved line you have considered for checking the non-existence or limit, it should pass through the given point. So it can be something like, say, like here 0, 0, I can choose a path y equals to mx. I can choose the path y equals to mx here. Why? Because as x tends to 0, y tends to 0 and it passes to 0, 0. You can see x tends to 0, y tends to 0. These all paths. Any of other paths, any type of path that crosses through 0, 0 will come under this category. Okay, it should cross through 0, 0. Secondly, the more important thing, now it will refine your path more precisely. How? It should be such that if possible, the variables x from numerator and denominator of fxy should get cancelled. Whatever path you choose, the values or variables x in the numerator or in the denominator, they should get cancelled if possible. So your second priority that will now refine the path depends upon point 2, that it should be such that if possible, because it is not always going that you can always be using two-part test. There are many of the functions where you can't use two-part test. But if it can be used, then second condition will show you that variables of x must be cancelled from up and down, numerator and denominator. So for our question, we have this type of path, or even y equals to mxq, or any path that can be passes through 0, 0. Okay. Now the second thing says you should choose a path as such from numerator and denominator the variables of x should get cancelled. So you can see, if I choose y equals to mx and substitute this here, I can clearly get rid of variables of x. That is possible at least in this function. So let us approach, let me write it properly, 0, 0 by the path y equals to mx, such that as x tends to 0, y tends to 0. So it clearly shows that this chosen path curve passes through 0, 0. So limit x, y, now let us see what now comes out to be when we substitute the value in the function. So limit x tending to 0 minus x, y is equals to mx under root x square plus y square. So this gives me limit x tending to 0 minus x under root x square m square x square. So this gives me limit x tending to 0, and I got here minus x under root 1 plus m square, and this gives me minus 1 upon under root 1 plus m square. So this is the limit I got in this question. Limit when x, y approaches to 0, 0, I got this limit. Now this, what happens now, it now clearly you can from here analyze, conclude that limit exists or not. Clearly you can see limit depends upon value of m. That is, it is different for different values of m. Limit is not unique. It is path dependent. Because we were saying earlier that it should not be path dependent. Whatever path you follow, the value of limit should always be unique. But here what is happening? It is path dependent. You follow some path, you get different limit, you put m equals to 1, you get value another, you get some value, you put value of m another value, you get some another value. So the value of this limit is path dependent, depends upon m, it is not unique, hence limit does not exist. Limit does not exist. Although limit is finite, when you put any of the value m, it is finite, but it is not unique. Why? Because the path you are following, different path. Different path means you give different values. You give different values to m. Y equals to mx is the path. You take y equals to x, you take y equals to 2x, you take y equals to 3x, and then in a different path your limits will be different. So this is how we can use two-part test to check whether the limit of given function exists or not. So here in this case at least we were able to show that the limit does not exist. Because why? Because we were able to choose a path that crosses through that point, passes through that point, and also the numerator and denominator, the variable of x, gets cancelled. So this is your first example for finding the non-existence. Remember students that this method can only be used to show the non-existence of the limit. You can't use this method to show the existence of the limit of any two variable function. Okay. So with this, I think now today your this lecture up to this one is complete, and we will take some more example in your second lecture, and then we will see some work. We will work out some or more example for this limits of two variable function.